Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 30, the end of the journey right here in 1996 for WCW over at the Turnbuckle Tavern. Guys, we did it. We're here. We're at the very last of 1996. I'm good old Mike Belcaster, as always, and my partner in crime, my brother in arms, the bad guy.
Live from the No Sales Studios, it's the Ace of the Tavern, Stephen Acefield, and we are back by popular demand for the final episode of our journey through 1996. Episode 30 is Mike Belcaster so eloquently mentioned. We are finally here. This is the season finale. Don't you fret. Season 2 of Shot Nostalgia is coming up next week. ECW on the horizon. I'm really excited for that.
Hell yeah. No, me too. I'm super pumped. It's going to be awesome to kind of take a year back too as well. Seeing some of our favorites here in WCW doing their thing in ECW. I'm so excited, man. It's going to be a blast.
All right, man. So as we mentioned, we're going to be reviewing 2 episodes. The first one being Starrcade 1996, the granddaddy of them all, as they call him that. I was surprised to hear them call them the granddaddy of them all. Thought it was copyrighted and invented by Vince, but apparently not. And we also have the December 30th Nitro, the day before New Year's Eve. So kind of in the holiday spirit, we get the December 26th feel last week, and the day after Christmas. Now we finally have our chance to enjoy Starrcade. It's been a long way building with this Piper and Hogan drama.
It has. Very looking forward to it. It was a very fun 2 episodes of everything. Like the pay-per-view was great. The Nitro was fun. I'm just so sad that we're already at the end of the tunnel, man. But I am looking forward to the greener pastures over at ECW come next week. So it's going to be a good time.
And 30 weeks have never gone faster in my life, man. This has been truly a blast, man. I couldn't have asked for a better partner to be time traveling through 1996 with, and you were the best partner in crime for this. And let's be honest, dude, like you lived through it, and I think we've all gained a great appreciation, everybody that's been watching us on this journey, and both of us, of what they were doing in WCW and how it applies to wrestling today, because it was truly a different time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a trip to kind of relive it all, because, I mean, through a 9-year-old's eyes, it's a little fuzzy, you know? I mean, I'm 34 years old. A lot of time has gone past since these WCW episodes, so it was really good to get back into it. I mean, we got to see the birth of the one and only Glacier. We got to see some of the best stuff ever. I mean, the beginning of Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero's illustrious careers. Just so awesome, man. A lot of cool stuff. Rey Mysterio. It's just the whole vibe was just beautiful, man. Brian Pillman. I forgot we even covered Brian Pillman. It's been so long.
I think the best thing about this for me throughout the journey, we can go match by match and talk about our favorites, but it really has been seeing everything in context. We always see the moments, those famous things, the Bash the Beach moment where Hogan turns heel. We even see some of the moments like the War Games match, and you also see the World War III matches just in highlight fashion. But I don't think people really appreciate the impact this was having on the business until you watch it in context and sequential order. And I think that's what we had. Most people don't have the opportunity to do that. And we provided the platform for you guys to watch along with us. And I think we've done a really good job setting the table for what will be the next couple of seasons of Shot Nostalgia. And I think it could be endless. We have Shot Nostalgia season 56 if we really wanted to.
Yeah, man. We'll be covering the Vince McMahon catastrophe in 2000. Let's
go back in the time machines. Triple H when he took over WWE that first year, 2022. Let's talk about it.
We'll be.
With that being said, Meltzer will be joining us along the ride in ECW 1995, so he won't be missing. He'll be a year younger. His hair will be just as long. I'll show you guys a quick picture. My favorite. I never really deleted it. It's the best picture of Meltzer on the internet. And Meltzer, who you see a lot of his mug now, he's been on the videos on YouTube. They cleaned out his office, all that stuff. All the interns went to work at the Wrestling Observer and F4W online. And Meltzer's looking better than ever right now. He did cut his hair, yeah.
He's looking
But he's
good.
going to lead through happy hour for sure.
Yes. And I mean, I'm ecstatic to get right into it as always, man.
All right, let's get right into the happy hour. And we're going to break down the newsletter from December 30th, 1996. Truly hope we are keeping those bumpers, right? That's going to stay, right? That has to stay.
We can't lose the Dusty spirit going backwards. It's going to be great.
So as we mentioned, happy hour. This is our last time going through the newsletters in 1996. So we're going to start with the December 30th, 1996 newsletter. And let's start with the reception from Starrcade. So I dove into the reception the day after. I feel like we want to set the table for what is going to be a great pay-per-view to review. And I think the most important part to talk about is the financials. So the World Champion annual Starrcade event on 12/29 from Nashville, Tennessee. Continue the promotion's current trend. The show had an excellent undercard, main events with past their prime performers or mediocre, if not worse, workers. This is from Meltzer's perspective, not mine. However, the top matches weren't as bad as one would be anticipated going in, largely due to well-booked finish. So we always talk about that. It's not about the work rate. You could set the tone. Everybody can get a little bit of the smorgasbord of WCW. You have the cruiserweights for the work rate. You got Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, guys like that can satisfy that, urge for anything for a fan that's looking for that. But also on the other end, the big stars, even though Hogan couldn't work to the level he used to be able to work, I mean, he's still drawing a crowd and getting people excited.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's crazy to see. I thought the matches were very well put together, though. I thought the work rate matches were good enough to carry the show. I didn't think anything took away from it, besides goofy WCW shit that normally happens.
We'll certainly get into the goofy WCW shit for sure, but let's talk about the money that was made here. So the show, we talked about ticket sales the week before. They did really well from the jump. They sold out 2 weeks in advance, drew 9,030 fans, 8,327 paying, $113,040 at the gate. Scalpers were getting as much as $200 for tickets, which is unheard of for WCW events. Merchandise sales topped the $60,000 mark, approximately 58% of which was for the New World Order merchandise. So huge numbers at the gate, huge numbers for the merchandise. This is just, otherworldly. $60,000 sold merchandise alone at the tables.
Man, that's insane. But the NWO merch, we've watched it happen. It's still to this day, they're still selling fucking t-shirts. So it's amazing.
You bought two of them this year.
I did. I bought two of them this year, and it's just a test of time of how important they were to the business and their impact on it, man. And they really kicked WCW into gear for, being a top company at the time. So it's awesome to see the numbers.
Yeah. So outside of just the newsletter, I was doing my research with the 83 Weeks podcast being a supplemental type of lesson for me to listen to. Because it's from the horse's mouth himself. Eric Bischoff is talking with Conrad Thompson. And of course, Conrad's asking the right questions to get what he wants out of Eric Bischoff. And I listened to the episode from December 2018 about Starrcade and talked about everything that went into it. And he had some interesting things to say. And then one thing I took away from it, Conrad had asked him, why did you choose to run Starrcade in Nashville, Tennessee? Was that a hotbed for WCW? What was the reason? He had said they had no anticipation that they would be as hot as they are. They had to book the venues probably 6 to 12 months out, and they had no concept. And he actually was transparent. When he first took over WCW booking, they couldn't give away the tickets. So just seeing that gate is remarkable for us to sit here and talk about the money being made. They didn't know they were in the hot streak they were. He didn't know. You're not quite sure about being at the peak until I guess you're on the downward slide, but man, they were at the peak and going upwards, because Starrcade 1997 by all accounts was the best Starrcade, the best wrestling event that they had in WCW history. But this is setting the table that was, it's otherworldly to watch.
Yeah, we've covered pay-per-views that were drawing less than this. They were giving away tickets. I think at one point there was a show that they gave away 1,000 seats for. Yeah. That's insane for not having a gate like this. This is understandable. You're making money on it. You're not losing out of your ass and just filling the arena. It's insane to see the growth from the beginning of 96 to now. And it's got to be crazy for Bischoff to even kind of go back and talk about, it's insane to see what 6 months could do to a company.
And he was also talking about possibly being able to sell maybe 4,000 tickets more than what he sold. But he, from his perception, it wasn't about the gate. It wasn't about the money being made at the door. He wanted to look a certain way. And when you watch, Starrcade and you watch some of the events they have, the venue is important. When you have an event that looks like, okay, you could sell an extra 4,000 seats, but when you have empty seats, you could have more people making more money, but people need to have the perception that you are a hot product. And when you see the crowd going crazy, which the crowd in Tennessee that night, they were going crazy. There's something to be said about the aesthetic of the venue. And we talk about that all the time with GCW. The second best match in GCW is just having the venue. That's the draw. When you go to the Ukrainian Cultural Center, it's a cool ass venue. When you go to any place, Hammerstein Ballroom, cool ass venue. It draws itself.
No, absolutely, man.
All right. So we're going to get through some ECW as well, because I figured it sets the table. It was in the newsletter because they were right on the furnace of getting a TV deal and possibly being on pay-per-view, but all kind of came crumbling down on Paul Heyman and the boys. And some of the stuff written in Meltzer is very interesting because he's pretty hard on ECW in 1996. We'll see where he stands in 95. Of course, not sure exactly what in ECW.
You're glitchy. It's all good. Repeat what you said.
I was just saying about the ECW roster being very littered with guys before in 1996. Did you catch that before?
Yes, absolutely. It's crazy, man. But it's good to see. I mean, I think ECW really made a good stance point. It's going to be interesting to be hearing what Meltzer's got to say about them in 95. I'm very excited about it. It's insane, man.
All right, so the issue he has in here is that whether the over-the-edge style of Extreme Championship Wrestling would be a short or long-term hindrance to the growth of the company. So they want to go to the next level. They want to be on pay-per-view. They want to be the third promotion, and this has been debated for many years. Can a deathmatch, a hardcore, blood and guts company be the third, I guess, potential suitor for that spot? Because WCW and WWF are growing to heights that ECW was never going to make. There's no way that anybody could have predicted in 1996, not even Meltzer, who has his glasses predict the future. He can't predict that they would have the impact they would. I mean, if you would have told Meltzer in 1996, they'd be chanting ECW in arenas. Still to this day, I don't think he'd believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but it's weird because for a while they took over that spot. They did a really good job holding down that spot. And I mean, we've seen where time went with it all and how bad the product got before they got shut down. But I still really enjoyed not just the blood and guts, but the entertainment side of ECW. And I think that was something that was being overlooked at the time. And it really grew on the fan base, especially if you were kind of catching up a few years later and went back and kind of seen your Mick Foley's, your Steve Austins coming on through. Huge deals. I think Meltzer might have had a sour taste in his mouth about the hardcore stuff at the time.
Yeah, so he mentions just a year prior, and this is written in 1996, so he's mentioning 1995. People kind of look at 95 as the golden era of ECW, is when it started to get its legs under itself. And he said, as recently as 1 year ago, the ECW crowd, particularly in its home base of Philadelphia, have been compared by many to the hardcore Japanese audience for its appreciation of top-level wrestling and overall sophistication and knowledge regarding the business. They move away from that. We'll be honest with that. By 97, 98, 99, it's not so much about the work rate. But in 95, it really is. And I think that's where people were really getting that level of work rate that they weren't getting anywhere else.
Yeah, 100%. I think by like mid 97, I'll say it became more of a shock show. You know, like what can we do to get people talking? It might not have been Paul thinking that way. It might have just been the talent, or it could have been vice versa. You never know. But I mean, 95 is a great year for ECW. That's why I'm super excited to be covering it.
So we talked about the pay-per-view potentially not being aired by anybody else, and it was Action TV that stepped up to the plate as being a potential carrier. By the way, Action TV is no longer in business, but they were the ones willing to carry it, which would mean roughly 70% of potential 70% of the pay-per-view universe would be not able to carry the show, and they wouldn't even have access to it. So they were cutting out huge portion of the wrestling fans, so they were already going to be operating at a loss. So I think Paul Heyman and I consider, do we want the platform, or do we want to, I guess, be able to run these live shows? And I guess that's something you had to consider. And it just wasn't feasible to run a pay-per-view if you weren't going to be accessible to everybody else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember the struggle of them being on pay-per-view. It was really, really hard. They got thrown in the UFC category.
Yep.
And because people thought it was the ultra violent stuff was as real as it gets. And I mean, kudos to Paul. He made it happen on being such a short branded company. Like, it's insane to think that it basically an indie from Philadelphia made its way to pay-per-view, syndicated television, you know, getting the rounds. It's unheard of these days. It is really awesome to see how it happened.
And ECW walks, so GCW could run, and we'll see where GCW goes with their new platform or Fight Plus and everything that goes into that. So, I mean, ECW has been super influential, and I can't wait to get into their birth ground, because there's still some of the main faces, and they're getting into their their own as far as wrestling goes. And like, I can't wait. The quality of the Peacock network and the stuff we're going to be watching is a little bit shitty, but we'll be honest. I'm excited to see it. The double tables is going to be a lot of fun. We'll get into hyping it after the show.
Yeah, it's Bingo Hall wrestling on a Bingo Hall recording. So I mean, it's only fitting, right?
So exactly. I mean, it fits the ECW aesthetic. Let's be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that Mick Foley? I'm not sure if it's him. Is that Cactus Jack? I'm not sure. It's just a blur.
Might be Balls Mahoney. I'm not too sure.
We're not sure.
Yeah.
So Paul Heyman said on December 23rd that there's no chance viewers choice carry the first event, but still held out hope it might carry a second event down the line once they see that it's not as bad as everyone projected to be. Nobody wanted to be the first to dip their toe in the water. And he thinks if it's going to be successful, everybody else will kind of turn a blind eye to the violence. But I guess some of the networks didn't want to take the chance and say, all right, we don't know if it's going to be successful, but we also don't want to be involved in something that's going to catch headlines in a bad way.
Yeah.
Let Action TV do it first. We'll hop in on the second event. That's what Heyman was hoping for.
Yeah, it worked out.
All right, so Heyman claimed that he had a request or viewer's choice, and they issued an edict against things like blood, brawling in the crowd, swearing, and beating up women, that he would have had to cancel the show. They asked him not to do those things in the show. He couldn't promise it wouldn't happen because that's just ECW. You can't have no blood, no brawling in the crowd. It just would be a standard AWA. That's what people are buying in ECW.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So Heyman claimed he had a request that had no qualms about any of the above. He said he would be willing to negotiate and give up one of those things, which is not true, man. I mean, in the past, WCW had received stern warnings from Request and Viewer's Choice when it used blood during its pay-per-view events, and that part of the reason neither WWF nor WCW used blood on pay-per-view and pull camera shots back away from accidental juice, they just absolutely couldn't use blood, and that's why we saw it disappear from TV for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, much akin. I mean, besides AEW, in the WWE aspect, I mean, blood's been hit or miss. I mean, sometimes it happens for the right reasons, sometimes it doesn't happen at all for the wrong reasons, and it's just insane. And to see the circle come full, you know, and see that the people are complaining about blood again. I mean, sponsors, you're a big ass company, you got people to work with, and some people want to see what they want to see, and blood's, you know, a hard situation, man. I'm glad that the AEW flagship is carrying it strong.
So Heyman had something interesting to say here, and Meltzer also kind of backed him up. He said separates his from WCW because they can't compete with WWF and WCW otherwise because they don't have the budget for lighting, fireworks, special effects. The problem is the catch-22 of the situation. The very thing the current ECW crowd swears by is the product of it, because it's what major groups don't offer, and the things that might make the product take it to the next level is almost a fruitless dream at this point. So,
no, 100%.
In order for ECW to succeed, there's no way we can sit here and say that he couldn't do the things that they didn't allow on TV. I guess he had to just play the waiting game.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about it several times with GCW. Like, if they got a network deal, would it steal the magic of the show? And I think it totally would, as very much so as when ECW was on TNN. You know, they really put the clamp down on what ECW was. ECW kind of evolved into a more tightened up version of what it was, still with a little bit of hardcore, more of in-ring performances and stuff. And I think that was one of the many nails in the coffin for ECW, was that they were drawing numbers, they were doing great, but the network did not want to put the product out there.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing kind of repeat itself with GCW, and they ultimately decided to go to Fight Plus instead of the Peacock network, where the limitations of WWE, but also NBC, would be a lot more stricter than Fight Plus, because we see Ultimate Fighting, we see martial arts, we see things a little bit more Peacock network, and we'll see how successful they are with it. And I think they made the right choice.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So moving on, the cancellation raises numerous questions regarding the future of ECW, not so much the survival as much as its potential to grow to the next level. So no one was saying it's going to disappear just yet. Obviously, financial decisions Paul Heyman makes in the future takes it to the level where they go out of business, and also the talent that goes away. But while many, if not most of the wrestlers deny publicly will privately admit ECW is largely a place for either those who don't have the talent to work in the big two, or for those who do have to use ECW to get their market value raised and get WWF and WCW interested in using them in a better position than they would have otherwise, since Heyman may be the best in the business at being able to present talent that it's so good at in many cases. He's fooled even people who are in the business as to just how advanced some of his wrestlers are once they leave him. Point in case, Public Enemy. Public Enemy was highly sought out by both WWF, WCW, and they weren't nearly as successful anywhere else. And that's a kudos. I mean, kudos to Heyman here.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, he could paint a rusted up truck all back to normal and be like, it's perfectly brand new. Don't worry about it. Everything's gonna be good. The gas tank's good. Everything's great. Don't worry. The wheels aren't falling off. That's just the shape of the axles. Don't worry about it. That was Paul Heyman's trick, man.
Absolutely true. And the list of wrestlers who over the past years, we talked about some of them that will be in 1995. Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Too Cold Scorpio, Public Enemy, who we're seeing here, Rey Mysterio Jr., Juventud Guerrero, Cohen, Cactus Jack, Psychosis, Shane Douglas, Sabu, Steve Austin. The list goes on and on. So it's a breeding ground. I'm sure they didn't want to be the minor leagues for these bigger promotions, but it's working out that way. And the legacy of it, of course, we look at it in a positive way now, but at the time it had to really burn Heyman.
Yeah, no, I'm sure at the time it probably, really, really irked Heyman, got us all fuming mad and shit. But I mean, look at some of the, the docu-series that we've gotten on some of these wrestlers, and you see that in time in ECW was so beneficial to them. I mean, when Austin left WCW and went to ECW, I mean, that's when he really started showing his character. Mick Foley doing the same thing. Kane Dewey, man, it's an iconic promo, and that you wouldn't have that without the awesome stuff going, the whole Sandman feud that happened. I mean, that really painted Foley as an artist. You've seen that dark, deep side where he got serious, and it was something that was not being put out there in television, like not just wrestling, but a lot of things. Like there was a very realism that ECW captured with all their nitty gritty, and but they put these performers on. A rocket ship to stardom. Just let them do their thing, man, and watch what happens. And I think a lot of it has to do with the time and day, because we see indies all over the place that are so great these days, and you see a lot of talent out there, but nobody lifts off like that. It wasn't like once you seen them in ECW, you knew they were going to bigger and better pastures in the future.
It's a good point. I mean, you could look at PWG and GCW being that same type of playing ground, but not quite the impact that ECW had, because once they were there and they got over, everybody wanted a piece of them, especially the two big, WWF and WCW.
Absolutely.
So very well said, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Many of the wrestlers who made up the foundation of ECW, the ones Paul Heyman protected the most in the booking, and were his handmade stars, as opposed to those who had already proven themselves as top talent in Japan, Mexico, were largely unknowns in the U.S., that he simply imported in the long run, only to expose them to WCW through the Nancy Sullivan connection, had long had the pay-per-view carrot dangled in front of him. So we talk about this all the time. I mean, he's at a crossroads. He could either keep the guys, his guys he wants to build around, or he could look at the bigger picture and try to build the business. He can't pay all of them what they'd be getting paid in WCW. He has to continue to rebuild and try to find new stars. And I think they would have done that if he didn't overextend himself to be this, this pay-per-view Mongol, to be the third promotion. They could have hung around forever being this distant fifth instead of hopping up and taking that step. And I think in a lot of ways, that's the mistake that Impact made. When they had that vacant hole, you step too hard up that you wind up tripping yourself up, where you could have just kind of coasted for a bit and lasted a long time. And ECW probably would still be around.
Yeah, and much to Impact's point, they were doing some of the best stuff they were doing right before they went after that brass ring to try to be the number 3, to try to take on number 2 at the time.
Yeah,
because we didn't have any, so they were really trying to get that Monday Night War thing started off, and it was not successful. And same thing here, is Paul was dying so hard to be the competition and not just be a part of the journey, that I think it hindered the whole product, including the locker room, the overall whole show. I mean, the last couple months of ECW were hard to watch, and it's interesting to see how it all played out.
Yeah, I looked at ECW as like a rebuilding team that can't compete with bigger teams. I bring it back to baseball. It's a sport I guess, the biggest fan of. You have these teams that just can't pay the payrolls like the Dodgers, like the Yankees. And if you want to look at the Dodgers and the Yankees as WWF and WCW, these guys are the Tampa Bay Rays. They're building stars time and time again. They're finding these guys, the diamonds in the rough, and then they're going off to greener pastures to get paid somewhere else. And then it's rinse and repeat. Go find your scouts, go get these guys in your system, and then build them up again. And then you're not able to pay them, but you're able to compete in the moment. But if the Rays tried to spend the money and tried to be on the level of the Yankees and do the things the Yankees do, they would never be successful, but they're successful in their own way. That's why they're as competitive. In a lot of ways, they've been run than the Yankees in the last couple of years. So for those that watch baseball, for Matt from Extra Cooler, you watching this, you understand what I'm saying. Tom, you also understand what I'm saying. But this is like, you kind of got to stay in your lane. You have to be the who you are and the identity. You can't try to spend money with people that you can't spend money with.
Yeah, very akin, and I'll give it in restaurant terms as well. You know, you got your McDonald's and your Burger King. ECW could have been the In-N-Out and just kind of hung back in California, not went everywhere in the damn world, like a Hardee's or something. I mean, how often we see Hardee's commercials, but I don't have any Hardee's by me. You got any Carl's Jr.'s by you? Yeah, they're in the sticks. You literally cannot find one unless you're road tripping through the U.S. So, yeah, man, if he would have just been, you know, the mom and pop joint establishment, I think it would have been more beneficial. And it's crazy that, I mean, it's very crazy how much he had at the time, and it just kind of, you know, including his paychecks from WWE because he went and started working there full time.
His story is so fascinating to me. I know this documentary was done a couple years back, probably 2014, when he was back on that second run with Brock when he came back.
Yeah.
But his story about being a photographer and he like snuck his way in, all that stuff, it's fascinating. How he's still relevant in wrestling. I mean, he's in the hottest storyline in all of wrestling right now with the Bloodline. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's reinvented himself so much, and I mean, even in the last 10 years, he's been probably the best part of WWE television with Brock Lesnar, you know, coming out managing Brock Lesnar, the you know, Suplex City stuff. He was what was the part that was keeping me watching WWE. I was like, well, at least Heyman's there. You know, I could give a shit less about the Shield, all these guys, but at least Heyman's there. Boom. And then, I mean, he's still doing it. He's still kicking ass, and better than ever. It's awesome.
Agreed 100%. And Meltzer continues. He said, the reality is that with WCW making great strides over the past year and having no such working agreement with ECW or anybody else, it's going to be hard for WWF to just sit back and let everyone Heyman creates who wants to go elsewhere go to WCW. So Meltzer is kind of predicting the future that Vince is going to have to pony up and look at these guys that he doesn't necessarily see as stars in his company. I'm sure he looked at the ECW guys as these mud show backyard wrestlers, but Vince has to open up his wallet and open up his mind to I mean, he does eventually, let's be honest. I mean, guys like RVD, they have main event slots there. Vince kind of, you know, for the old way of thinking, he eventually got to a point where these guys were being booked as main eventers. Chris Jericho, ECW guy, WCW guy, first ever undisputed champion back in 2002. So he steps his way in there.
Yeah, he put aside his bullshit. I mean, if you're even talking Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Benoit, you see it happen from like 99 on. The Dudleys were put in that tag team spotlight for a huge amount of time there. And I think it opened up making tag team wrestling more relevant again in WWE. I mean, without the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys, I don't think tag team wrestling would be as big as it was there at all. It's crazy.
Yeah. Fascinating. And we're going to continue with ECW more. So it's apologists overlooking or rationalizing away a string of incidents, most of which on their own aren't that alarming, but taken as a pattern has only created a loss of perspective internally. Although Heyman may not be a part of that loss of perspective, it's not all that different from what happened with Vince when he came under the gun in 91, 92. McMahon, largely being surrounded at the time by yes men, made mistake after mistake, born in arrogance and pretending there was no problems and outright denying the problems that led to what ended up being a major threat to company survival and a business slump that lasted several years. Didn't put Vince out. It did put Paul Heyman out. So his inability to see the forest through the trees and again, stay in his lane and bite off more than he can chew, he choked. And he found his way elsewhere, not being able to pay the guys. And you hear all these shoot interviews from past ECW guys. They all talk positively about the creative genius that is Paul Heyman, but not so much the businessman that kind of shorted them on check. I think Dawn Marie said he still owes her $30,000 or something like that. That's what the last interview. So it's wild.
Yeah, I don't see Heyman taking any of his WWE checks and paying past due ECW bills. Something tells me he's doing okay, and I think the rest of the talent that's still alive and to this day I mean, most of them are working still, doing good stuff, and they found other venues to take part in, and other ventures to travel on. So crazy shit though. I mean, I've been in some situations where you're not getting paid for the work you're doing. It doesn't matter if they tell you you're going to get paid for it or not. It's just like, here's your go pick out a t-shirt from the merch booth. Have a great day. Like, it's the opportunity that strikes itself. A lot of these people wouldn't be working if they were getting paid by ECW.
Very, very good point. And I think they looked at it as a tryout for other companies, and that's why they did their work. And also some of them that speak truly about it, guys like Bubba and Tommy Dreamer and guys like that, they were passionate about what they were doing. So you have both camps. You have people that were just trying to make a name for themselves, because at the time the independents weren't as hot as they were, and you didn't have the outreach, no social media. You had to make your ground on either 3 platforms, and one of them was ECW.
Yeah. Wild. Absolutely wild.
All right, so continuing with the AAA relationship with WWF, there'll be 3 AAA matches on the WWF Royal Rumble Alamo Dome show, one of which may or may not air for the free-for-all, which is the pre-show prior to it going on, and the other 2 which definitely won't be airing on live television, wrestlers that are being featured in WCW. So the remaining AAA matches are a minis match with Mascarita Sangrata Jr. and La Parquita, and also versus Mini Big Van Vader and Mini Mankind, the former which will be Esposito the first, the top mini worker in the history, and the latter is expected to be his brother Esposito the second. What were your thoughts on the mini stuff? This is their response to cruiserweights. I think this speaks volumes about how Vince views
it's wild, because it's like you got all this talent in the world, and you're really putting your money down on Mini Vader and Mini Mankind. Like, it's asinine. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it's totally not cultural appropriate, especially in this day and age. I mean, back then, Vince is one of those guys, though. He's one of those guys that gets a kick out of stupid booking sometimes. Like, we've talked about Funaki and the way he represented Japanese wrestling, and like it was hindering to a fan too, because if you've seen the Indeed stuff and all that, like you're like, who's Okada? All I see is Funaki in the ring. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah. And so you would watch Funaki and Tanaka, and you would go be like, I don't want to watch Japanese wrestling, because if this is what it is, so it probably set wrestling back a few years, the way they're trying to represent things in WWE, WWF. And Vince is just like, goddamn hell, it's good shit. Love it. Put him in a mask and call him Mini Vader. And like, it's just like, shit, man.
It just shows the 2 different mindsets of the 2 different companies, and they both went in different directions. Eventually, Vince breaks from that mold, but it's long after WCW is gone. And like you talked about guys like Benoit and Eddie in the main event, Rey Mysterio, but that was long after WCW was gone. So WCW was progressive in a lot of ways, but they were doing things wrong. But Vince kind of cherry-picked the things that WCW was doing right with the reality-based program and the high work rate. Those guys eventually came over to WWE, and they killed it. Vince did it right.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, moving on here. Yuji Nagata had his final New Japan match on the evening show in the main event, losing to Kazuo Yamazaki. Nagata is now going to WCW for 1 year, starting in about a week. We're going to miss Nagata here. I think it would have been cool to see him in 97, but if you guys are familiar with his work, he is a Japanese legend, great work rate, had an impact in WCW, but it also, comparing it to AEW, I mean, this is similar to what AEW did, bringing in, we saw Shibata wrestle on Rampage.
Yeah. And it's cool. I like it. It adds a different flavor, and like this is how you want to represent foreign wrestling. You want people to be like, man, I really like Takashi, and I want to go watch him go do his thing. Like, let's buy a New Japan for a month and check it out. Like, you want people to get all the flavors, And
that's the benefit of this worship with WCW New Japan. There was a ever moving door. You had people going back. It wasn't quite the forbidden door, but it definitely was something very similar to it, where guys from WCW would go to New Japan, guys from New Japan would come over, and they were treated as equals. And I think that's what wasn't happening in WWF. It was either you were a WWF guy and we're booking you strong, or if you're an outsider, you're not. First of all, you may not be coming in, but if you are, you can be booked like a jobber. And that's similar to what we're seeing in that Rumble in AAA. 1997 Rumble, it looks like dogs. You got guys from AAA that are main eventers look like shit.
Yeah, no, they don't make it easy. And I can only think like people like Mil Mascaras and stuff like that. They really, it like I said, it hinders the foreign product and it takes away eyes from it because they're going to be like, they throw these guys in there, just let them eat shit and get thrown out. And then you're like, nobody's going to be, man, I want to see more of this guy. I want to see more of this guy. Like it sucks the air out of the room.
So 3 of the top matches on the January 25th NWO pay-per-view, which is their debut on pay-per-view for WCW, it's going to be from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, will be Hall and Nash defending their tag titles against the Steiners, Six versus Eddie Guerrero in a ladder match for the U.S. title, and Masahiro versus Chris Jericho. The main event will probably be Hogan defending the title against either Luger or the Giant, with Luger being more likely of the two. At this point, Hogan doesn't want Giant to turn, which this was written prior to Nitro, where we saw that the Giant Hogan segment where clearly the Giant's no longer part of the New World Order.
Yeah. He dropped the ball, brother. You dropped the ball, brother.
We'll certainly get into that segment, but it was so interesting to see Hogan's dynamic where he's crying and then they beat the crap out of the Giant. But it's definitely, it didn't seem like a Hogan-like quality to want to cry in the ring. But I mean, I give him some credit to be a heel like that.
Yeah, it felt very, all of his acting skills finally paid off for something. He got to cry on national television. I felt it. You felt it. Santa with Muscles was a great hit. He's feeling the box office numbers on that one. So he was using it as a character actor. It was fantastic.
So the final piece of the newsletter here, Jim Ross did an about face on both Sunday and Monday's show regarding Pirith Jr. and Cybernetico, saying that they weren't known as being high flyers, which we all know they are. And also talked about Perro Aguayo being on the pay-per-view, which he won't be. Actually, Jim Ross and Jim Cornette did a better job of attempting to get Mexicans over in one match than WCW has done with Mexicans in 6 months. Meltzer said that. I completely disagree. It has to be tongue-in-cheek. I mean, what is he looking at? We see Mike Tenay come out and put over these guys as equals, guys going over. Rey Mysterio has been built into a star. What is he talking about?
It's wild, man. Totally, like, complete opposite of everything I would expect Meltzer to come out and say. Jim Ross still has a hard time calling foreign talent, even when he worked in New Japan. He was like, I like that Okasha guy. He's great, man. It's so mind blowing, and we know how Cornette thinks about high flying wrestling. So I don't see him going, God damn, this kid can do a sunset flip. Look at him go. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So hopefully it was tongue in cheek. Breaks my heart that Meltzer would say such slander against the cruiserweight division, man.
So the last thing he leads with, he said, only problems that the Mexicans WWF has at this point, with the exception of Garza, aren't even close to the caliber of the ones WCW has. So I think we both agree with that. The WCW talent is bar none better than WWF.
100%, man.
All right, so I think it's time to get our fix. Let's talk about WCW Starrcade 1996. December 29th, 1996, Nashville, Tennessee. It's time to get our fix for the last time in 1996.
Woo!
All right, it's time to get our fix. December 29th, 1996, WCW Starrcade from Nashville, Tennessee. The Municipal Auditorium. Right now, our current champs, the WCW World Champ is Hogan. He won it back at Hog Wild. The U.S. Championship's vacant, but don't worry, brother. We're going to be crowning that new U.S. champion straight from that tournament. Our tag champs are still the Outsiders. They won it at Halloween Havoc. Our TV champion is Lord Steven Regal. And, of course, our Cruiserweight champion is the Iceman Cometh, the man of 1,000 holds, Dean Malenko. He also won it back at Halloween Havoc. Beautiful list of champions here. I mean, we're going to get a really awesome U.S. champion, and that might be, it's kind of appropriate. We're going to go out of 1996 with the best crop of champions we've had all year. I mean, I think there's no disagreeing with that, right?
No, you're not wrong at all. And I mean, the man of the year, because that's basically what we're calling him. Dean Malenko just running shit as he's been. I think the longest reigning champion, minus a few pullouts here and there, but I think it's been pretty good to say that Malenko's just killed it this year, and I'm fucking loving it.
Yeah, for my money, I think he'd be the MVP of the year. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Was bar none. He has the best matches. I mean, you can make the argument for Rey Mysterio as far as match quality goes, but it's him or Rey. I mean, that's it. I mean, Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio are having the best matches on the card every single night. As far as impact to the business, that's, here nor there. I want to talk about specifically MVP as far as wrestling goes. There's no one better than Dean Malenko.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right, so our hosts are Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and of course, Dusty Rhodes is here. It's a pay-per-view, goddammit. So we have Dusty Rhodes in the building, and we open up with the NJPW J-Crown champion, Ultimo Dragon, taking on the aforementioned Cruiserweight champion, Dean Malenko, with all of the championships on the line. So, as you guys know, the J-Crown consists of lightweight, heavyweight championships, including the WWF's own light heavyweight championship strap that they just completely forgot about.
Yeah.
So we have the titles from Great Britain. Exactly. Mexico, Japan. So take the lead on this match and tell me about it.
This was a WCW doing what WCW does best, kicking off a show with some great back-to-back, hardcore, hard-hitting, high-flying cruiserweight action. Could not have had a better time for an opener of a pay-per-view. I mean, this is Starrcade. They got to bring everything they got, and this was one of those matches that brought everything really good back and forth, time-wise, awesome, 18 minutes, 31 seconds, but as great as Dean Malenko is, he just could not beat the man, the Ultimo Dragon himself, mainly because of the WWF Cruiserweight title, light heavyweight title being on. They just couldn't have it on WCW TV any longer, so they had to have Sonny Uno do some dastardly crazy shit and get the Dragon the win, man. It was great. Like I said, just a hard-hitting, awesome match, man. Good back and forth. Short, or not short, long enough. It felt short. You know it's a good match when it feels shorter than it is because your mind's blown from all the action.
So Ultimo Dragon now holds 9 titles. So going into 1997, he'll be 9-time champion. He was the most decorated wrestler in the world at the time and probably ever. I mean, FTR, rivals them right now with the tag titles, but they're nowhere close. They're 5 tag titles away. This would be like them going to PWG, them going to GCW, them going elsewhere and adding to their collection. It was crazy what Ultimo Dragon was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we would later see, just give you guys a spoiler alert, for January 4th, 1997, he'll go to the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom to take on Jushin Liger, and he'll lose all those titles. So it's one of the opponents that kind of had his number. So it's a venue where Dragon could never seem to defeat Liger for whatever reason. That was like something they had there. It's a thing. It really is a thing that Ultimate Dragon couldn't defeat Liger.
I love it. Why have we never seen a picture of Liger with all the belts? Seeing as he beats his ass. Yeah, I would love to see a very decorated Liger. Yeah, he deserves it, man.
The other thing we're going to be getting is Mysterio versus Liger at the first Clash of Champions that happens in February. So we're going to be missing that one in 1997, but that's going to be a hell of a match.
Hell yeah.
All right, so Gene Okerlund hypes up the WCW hotline. He continues to kind of throw shade at WWF in light ways. And he said somebody else will be joining the New World Order. That's what they've been going to. They're going back to the well, so that's exactly what they're doing. So Gene Okerlund doing his job here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like, I don't know, you're going to start seeing flowers blooming over on the NWO side. It's going to be member after member after member after member. I think if there's NWO cameramen at some point, there's NWO people that work in catering. It's just, it got ridiculous.
Yes, it did. And what we also have is the finals of the WCW Women's Championship Tournament. So we did not see any of this aside from the opening contest on Nitro. So if you guys have been following along with us, we also missed it as well. Most of these matches have been on Saturday night. So we have the finals. It's Medusa taking on Akira Okudo, who has Sonny Ono and Sasaki in her corner. They're calling it the WCW Ladies Championship on television, but it's also the Women's Championship. But the tournament finally comes to an end. And even though if you were watching Nitro, you wouldn't have known that it was still going on. You probably forgot it was even happening. So we get the self-proclaimed expert of women's wrestling, Lee Marshall, joining the commentary, like Mike Tenay of Mexican wrestling. This match, 7 minutes and 7 seconds. So we get the Women's Championship at least settled here on the card. We're at least going to have the women's championship, but it only lasts 6 months here because it's a completely abandoned and absolutely nobody really cared about it, and they didn't care about booking it. So yeah, we have it for a whole 6 months, and then they realized why they didn't have it in the first place, and then they got rid of it again, and it just kind of dies.
Yeah, which is wild because like you would think that Bischoff would have utilized this women's division to kind of overshine WWF at the time because they very big lack of a women's division. I mean, but take Sable out of the equation, which I don't think she's quite there yet as a big talent.
No, it's just
right?
Sunny
Medusa,
right now. It's probably just Sunny
not Medusa.
and Luna.
Yeah,
That's probably it.
Yeah, Luna. There you go. And like it's, come on. I mean, you could have easily made this something bigger and better for the whole division, and he just kind of was like, fuck it, we got NWO money now.
Very, very true. And we move into Gene Okerlund talking with Roddy Piper. He's just talking crazy. He's trying to put over the match with Hogan. This was a pretty good segment. And this is what I remember about Piper being in WCW. This is like kind of looks chaotic and frenetic. And I thought this was a good interview with Okerlund and Piper.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Very, very awesome stuff. Gotta love Piper on the stick anytime he gets the chance to be there.
All right, so we move to Jushin Liger taking on Mysterio Jr., and this is Liger's first match in the United States since his recovery from his brain tumors. So not sure if everybody knew that about Liger and how his career progressed over time, and he just recently retired. He had his moment at MSG back in 2019. He's been all over the place. He got his time in WWE with that NXT match. He went into the WWE Hall of Fame, but I didn't know he had this going on. This was all the way back in 1996. He was still working in the ring. This is impressive.
Yeah, no, very impressive. It's crazy. I mean, I've watched Liger a good portion of my life as a wrestling fan. I've been a huge fan. I got to see him right before he hit that retiring stage back in like 2000. I want to say like 2015, 2016. I got to see him in Vegas, and I even got to piss next to the man while he was still in full gear. It was awesome. But Liger's just amazing. But I did not know he had the brain issue, and that's insane. Very insane.
So
man. I mean, I'm glad he stayed around and kept wrestling, and I got the opportunity to piss next to him in Vegas.
So this match is as you expected, man. This goes all over the place. We got a Thunderfire powerbomb from Liger to Ray. You know, Ray is super light, so Liger was the bigger guy tossing him around. We got a split-legged moonsault getting a 2 count. Mysterio hits a springboard dropkick and weakens Liger. The spots in this match were just great. The Yasai moonsault, back in, Mysterio catches Liger between the ropes with a springboard leg drop for a really good near fall. Match finishes with a Liger bomb to Ray after a reversal of the Kopu kick. 14 minutes and 17 seconds. So, in my opinion, out of all the appearances we see of Liger in the 90s, in WCW, 1991, 92, 95, 96, this is probably the best he's looked, but he's never been pinned in WCW. Wow. And that's what's interesting. I mean, I'd be interested in 97 if he gets pinned, but from all my recollection, he was booked very, very strong here. And this right now is Ray's third straight loss on a pay-per-view. So, during this match, Liger challenged Ultimo Dragon for a shot at the J-Crown at the upcoming New Japan Tokyo Dome show at January 4th. This is pretty crazy how Liger kind of has been successful in this way. I don't know if they probably thought they were booking him so strong, but he was booked very, very strong in all his little short runs here.
Yeah, I could see him being super over in the 90s. I mean, dude, just as a casual fan in America, I mean, you could compare him to like a Power Ranger or, you know, something like that. So I think he would get a very strong fan base, and booking him well is a brilliant idea. And I had no recollection of him never taking a pin in WC. Like, this is all news to me, so I'm fucking mind blown right now. But it's awesome. I mean, as it should be. It's Jushin Liger. I feel like the guy's persona lives up to the gimmick, and vice versa, man.
Yeah, and you could tell from the jump both these guys are motivated to make this a classic match. They went out there and they just had this chemistry from the beginning. And you could probably say maybe if they did the match a year earlier or 2 years earlier, it would have been better. But I don't know, man. This is definitely one of the matches that if you want to circle on, you know, a Rey Mysterio match to show what he can do, it's this match. It's the one with Eddie at Halloween Havoc. This match has to be in the conversation. I think it's one of the reasons he put it on his compilation of matches when they released the WWE compilation of matches. This is one of the matches that Rey Mysterio handpicked, and for good reason.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree as well.
Listen to that, Chris been no disqualification match. Lead the way here on our new Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, unbelievable that WCW would host a no DQ match because they thrive on those DQ finishes. But for what it was, this could have been so much better. I believe watching it back, it was a little all over the place. Benoit looked, great as always. Jarrett looked good, but something was lacking. I don't know what it was. Again, I wasn't a big Jeff Jarrett fan at the time, so maybe some of that's still lingering in the back of my brain. Like, fuck this guy. I cannot stand him with the big Jeff Jarrett glasses and rocking all over the place. But it was a fun watch. It was 13 minutes. Surprisingly, Jeff Jarrett got the win. I was shocked. But, yeah, a lot of tomfoolery going on. I love seeing a pissed off Benoit. It's good. But I felt it could have just been a little bit better, man.
It's Jeff Jarrett, so it's going to be as good as it's going to be, I think. And I agree with you. I think the match just was there. Obviously, Sullivan's involvement and all that stuff, all the chicanery that goes into, all these matches with Dungeon and Doom involved. So, but yeah, not a bad match, but certainly not the best match on the card.
Yeah, and it's just Arn Anderson walking past.
All right,
Benoit.
so nobody in the Horsemen wants to talk to Gene following this.
Crazy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So Mongo and Deborah are talking to him, and Deborah starts talking. She gets the biggest heel reaction tonight outside of Hogan. So what'd you think about that reaction that Deborah got? I was shocked. I get Deborah's a heel chick, but come on. Does she get warrant that much heat in a post-match interview? Yeah.
It's insane, but it's Deborah, man. She's a heat magnet.
So our next match is the WCW World Tag Team Champions. We get the Outsiders taking on the Faces of Fear, and Nick Patrick is the referee for the Outsiders. What a surprise. This match is as good as it's going to get with the more big guys. It's what you expect. They kind of go for the big spots. We get double noggin knockers. We get the kick of fear and this was a really good, I think it exemplified what Faces of Fear could bring to 11 minutes and 15. We get the win off a powerbomb, off the jackknife powerbomb that Nash delivers. To me, Scott was willing to take a lot of punishment from the Face of Fear, and they really put them over even in a losing effort.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And it's crazy to see people just throwing Scott Hall and Nash around like that. And obviously it's the Faces of Fear, so it's a little easier to take. But to see four big guys in the ring at the same time manhandling each other, it's very impressive, especially knowing the size of Hall and Nash. Nash is a giant, man, literally, and he's still to this day. But it's just watching them do their thing in the ring. It was really cool. Wasn't the best match in the world, no, but was it fun and entertaining? I'll give it that. Hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it kind of showed the respect that the Faces of Fear commanded from different people on the roster, and the fact that they, in a losing effort, can still look good. I thought this was awesome. And again, don't want to take the titles off the Outsiders just yet, but I kind of wish the Face of Fear would have gotten a run with the tag titles sooner than later.
Yeah, likewise, man. Absolutely likewise.
All right, so the WCW World Champ, Hollywood Hogan, DiBiase, Vince, and Elizabeth are getting some interview time. Piper's family's on specific time. Hogan already told him that he's won the match as if he's on some sort of time delay. This is actually pretty goddamn funny.
Yeah, wild shit, man. Hogan was a character and a half, especially when he wasn't making sense, which was a good portion of the time.
He was feeling himself here a little bit. I think Hogan was really feeling like a little bit of this edge here. And we saw it the next night on Nitro, but he's certainly kind of falling into this weird bad guy character. And he's willing to make himself look goofy. And I think that's been like a thing that Hogan was missing for the majority of his career.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely. You've seen that with so many different wrestlers throughout the years. Stone Cold, when he started doing that silly shit side of him, it got better. Mick Foley, when he was the commissioner, I think everybody adored that time with Foley. Kurt Angle, Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care. You find all the love out of it, man, and you see them actually not just passionate about what they do in the ring, but also outside of the ring with their characters. It really makes you respect them more. Kind of warm up to him, cozy up to him, and you're like, man, I can't not love Kurt Angle after him singing Jimmy Crack Corn for fucking 15 minutes.
Very good point. Good comparison to it. My mind didn't even go there, but it's such a good point because even Austin was so goofy in that invasion stuff, as you mentioned, and people may like it, they may not, but it definitely brings a different dimension to the character, and it shows their willingness to progress. So I'm okay with it.
Me too, man.
All right, so Eddie Guerrero takes on Diamond Dallas Page, and this is the finals of the United States Championship tournament. This has been going on for about 2-3 weeks now. This is the finals we get. It's Eddie and Diamond Dallas Page, who have this history of this, obviously the super brawl ring that we never actually see anything to. Whatever. This has at least some things tied with it. Give me the feeling of this match and what you thought about it.
Man, I seen them coming out. I was all jacked up. I was ready to roll. I was expecting like a 5-star match out of this, because Page is fucking lightning hot right now. Guerrero's doing lightning hot. And it was just an okay match. It was nothing special, nothing awesome. We get a little bit of tomfoolery from the NWO running out, helping, DDP, it seemed like. But then, Hall hits DDP with the Outsider's Edge, which I love. I want to hear this from you. Are you a Razor's Edge or are you an Outsider's Edge guy?
I'm a Razor's Edge guy because I'm a WWF guy. But yeah, I mean, the Outsider's Edge they're about the same, but there's definitely a little more oomph on the Outsider's Edge. He's a little more gusto on it.
Yeah, I think he had a lack of being cautious about the talent in the future. So he was just like, fuck them, drop them on their head. But yeah, man, you get some little screwing around there. Eddie hits the frog splash, hits up that 1-2-3 to become your new U.S. champion. 15 minutes, 22 seconds. I thought it was good. It could have been better, like I said, but not bad.
So Eddie wins the rubber match between the two of them, and this is the highest honor that Eddie will ever achieve in WCW United States Championship. I mean, the match was just there, in my opinion. Like, did their typical stuff. It's mostly making making DDP look really good, and I thought this was good for DDP to get some exposure to a guy like Eddie Guerrero. He'd be working with the future stars of WCW as far as being a champion. So Eddie Guerrero is the best they have. They never really committed to putting the title on him, but they definitely should have. I mean, to prove that the New World Order had no interest in seeing Eddie Guerrero succeed, they had a 3-on-1 attack while Six in the most starts punching him, and they wants to take the U.S. title away, and they immediately start the feud. They have the absolute, like the ladder matches we talked about at the next pay-per-view. That's going to be happening soon, and they built it up right here. It kind of shows where WCW's mind was at. Like, let's build right to the next program.
Yeah, and I enjoy that. I like when things happen like that. When it's warranted. You can overdo it sometimes where you're like, oh, fuck. Like if they did this every ending of a match just to put the next pay-per-view over, it would not only take the fun out of the matches going into the pay-per-view, but it also would hurt the legacy that Starrcade had. So, but this was done well. I love it. Awesome shit. Looking forward to watching that ladder match again. I haven't seen it in years, so it's gonna be cool. I know we're not covering it, but I'm gonna keep going a little bit.
Me too. I don't want to stop doing this because I'm on a good run, and I want to see where 97 goes and see where all these stories go. And they hooked me, so I'm here for a bit.
Hell yeah, man.
All right, so we get an NWO sold out ad airing, and this is an interesting ad because it's the first time in any wrestling company at the time they aired the word fuck, and it was bleeped out on the network and bleeped out on pay-per-view, but that would never fly back in the day. Vince's WWF or the old WCW with the good old boys. So this is definitely changing, but it's the New World Order's pay-per-view. They really want to set it aside from not being just another WCW vehicle.
Yeah, no, that's insane and an awesome little fact to bring up because I mean we see it so often now at times. Not so much the F word, but I mean you get they say shit like it's 2001 South Park episode on fucking AEW every week. So it's cool, but it's just it's interesting, really interesting fact.
All right, so we have Lex Luger taking on the Giant. This match is as you expected. It's longer than it probably should have been. We see Lex Luger getting the win here. I mean, let's go through some of the spots here. Giant is sort of in this in-between of he's face, he's heel. He's not exactly sure where he should be. So Lex Luger is extremely over. I know we hate on Luger as far as his perception and the way he's perceived by the fans and by us and his in-ring ability and just like the storytelling, but the fans do like him. Maybe it's just Tennessee, but he got one of the biggest pops of the night.
Yeah. No, he did, and it was crazy to see. I mean, listen, again, same thing with Jeff Jarrett at the time. I don't think I necessarily had anything against him. I just fucking despised him. So, I mean, I'm just right here. I'm like, the hell with this guy. Like, I don't care about Luger, but he did have the look. he had obviously they're putting over the torture rack like it's the golden move, just like they were doing with the diamond cutter. Yeah, it was interesting to see. Very interesting.
They teased the torture rack all match. They didn't know if they can get him up. They didn't know if the Giant would fall into the rack. They eventually did it, but Luger low blows the Giant for the win, beats him up with a baseball bat. The ref gets up, counts him 1, 2, 3. We actually see Sting show up, shenanigans, 13 minutes and 24 seconds. By far the biggest pop of the night. So, I mean, in context of the storyline, this is the first time WCW has gotten a win over New World Order. So this is a huge moment. It shows that even though the bad guys are popular, everybody wants to buy the merch, there's still people clamoring for WCW to get one over. And this is the first time they really did, even though the Giant is the weak link in WCW and he disappears from from NWO, but it's still a big moment for WCW.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to have Sting come down and kind of show his true colors a little bit as well. You know, he throws the bat in, Luger uses the bat to win the match. Sting's kind of like, I'm here for WCW. And I mean, this is a year out from his first match. You know, it's insane to think of the commitment to booking the Sting character in this. And it's awesome. It really is. Cause like you got a whole year's worth of war until Starrcade 97 where Hogan and Sting finally meet. And, yeah, it's pretty fucking cool, man.
Which leads us right into our main event, and it's Roddy Piper taking on Hogan. And this was a match that's been a long time in the making. We have huge Roddy's chance to start the match, and we're going to recap the match prior. Piper came back at Halloween Havoc. He yelled at Hollywood Hogan for his actions and wants to get back at him. He says he feels like he couldn't get one over on Hogan. He couldn't disappear, so now he's in WCW to get his win back from Hogan. Hogan pretty much wants the rematch too. So he's been billed as a tough guy despite kind of running from Piper for a bit of the feud. What was your thoughts on the way they built this up going into Starrcade? Because this is at the time one of the biggest matches on pay-per-view ever. Yeah,
no, absolutely. It was definitely done way better than they did Warrior when he came out for WCW, and like in a good way. I thought the buildup was good. Hogan kind of played the bully, but also the cowardly bully, you know, so it kind of, it gives him a whole different characteristic, you know, because before Piper shows up in WCW, Hogan's like, I'm the bad dude, you know, and he's talking all this shit, but when Piper comes in, he does it for a few minutes, but then he starts cowering back a little bit, like, no, I don't want anything to do with you, but you've seen him stepping up and trying to get to the match. A good build-up. I was looking forward to it then, and I was looking forward to it now, and I thought they did a great job with it. It was cool to see Piper. I like that they used real life out of it. I like that they deeped into the depths of their feud without, you know, saying, oh, we wrestled at WrestleMania 1, brother. You know, like it was really cool to kind of, you got the feeling no matter what, you know, it wasn't like watching a different TV show. You still seen your two big villain and hero characters going at it, and it ties in really well, and it makes you invested and you want to see it. I know if Tom was actually watching WCW at the time, he would be like, holy shit, it's going down, Piper's back. Like it brings out the fan inside of you, and it was cool to see. I thought they did a great job with it.
Yeah, and I mean, for the limited amount of work rate that we were going to get out of these two guys, I think they did a really good job of pacing it. The match doesn't go too long. I mean, they do a lot of showboating and a lot of, you know, smoke and mirrors that the wrestlers of the 80s used to use. We saw a lot of that here. The finish was weird because it kind of showed you that for a guy like Piper, he probably could have used an impact finisher, and I'm not sure what it could have been, what would have fit Piper's style. But when he goes down the sleeper, the crowd is just stunned silent because they didn't realize that the match could end with a sleeper hold. And they were also confused with the title not being on the line either. So this was very confusing that they didn't make clear from the beginning of the feud. It felt as assumed it should be for the title, but it wasn't for the title. And they should have just made it very clear on Piper's end. I'm not here for the championship. I'm here to just end Hulk Hogan and then go from there. But I assumed it was for the goddamn title. It was hyped up for that.
Yeah, no, and I was mentioning this to you the other day too. Like when you go on Peacock and you're loading up the pay-per-view, it says Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper in a steel cage match, which that doesn't happen until Halloween Havoc of 97. So I was so confused before I started the show. I was like, wait, there's a fucking cage match? And then like right when they start off and they're doing the pyro, I'm looking in the rafters. It's like, I knew this wasn't a cage match. Like, I don't remember. Like, yeah, I thought they were trying to Mandela affect me or something like that. But I shook it off. I thought Piper looked great, man, and I thought there was good amount of storytelling throughout the match. I you can talk shit about the sleeper. The high impact moves might be better, but man, I pop when I see the sleeper get applied and somebody actually falls asleep. You never see it happen. And this is, I think this might be the tail end of it.
Bulldog choke now. He's bringing it back a little bit, but there's a little more like torque on the bulldog choke than the sleeper. The sleeper is old school. It's, Brutus Beefcake and Roddy Piper. That's who comes to mind for the sleeper.
Yeah, and if you see a sleeper in this day and age, you don't expect somebody to hand to go down at the third. Like, it's a spot to transition into the next spot. So like that, oh yeah, like he's alive. Hogan sold the shit out of it, and literally until the pay-per-view goes off the air almost. It's I wasn't expecting him to get up, but he did a good job, and as much shit as Hogan gets for not selling for people, he sold his ass off this match. And again, I think it's using that cowardly characteristic that he's not used to. Oh, brother, no, I don't want to do this. Like you buy it. You're like, this guy's a fucking scumbag. Like, he's a piece of shit. Fuck him. Like, Piper, get him. And like, you get that old man like yelling at your TV kind of effect. Like, yeah, get him, Piper. You fucking knock him out. Put him to sleep. Like, it was good, man. It was very randy. I enjoyed it.
So Piper does put his foot on top of Hogan as the show goes up the air. Hall and Nash hit the ring. Piper sticks and moves all over the outsiders, then ducks out before they gain a second win. You could tell both these guys wanted to be there. They were motivated to wrestle each other. You could tell they really like being around each other. 11 years removed from WrestleMania 1, they definitely didn't embarrass themselves. This was a spectacle. You have to go back and check it out. And Piper got the win here. Like, that's what we need to take away. Not the champion, but Hogan made him look very, very impressive.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, both applaud to both men, especially like 11 years removed from WrestleMania 1. Insane. And they still went on to wrestle. Like, it's fucking mind-blowing. But this was a really good outing, and it showed that maybe the vets weren't completely out of the business yet, too, I think. I think that was a really good stand thing. Like, if Piper can go, why can't so-and-so... Why can't Warrior come back in a few years? Why can't Bret Hart? Like, it's just one of those things that it opened up the door for more possibilities, not just in WCW, but in wrestling in general. And it was cool to see, man.
So before the pay-per-view goes off the air, the Giant's in the aisleway. He's glaring at the New World Order before eventually walking out on them. They run after him when the Giant gets in their faces, asking why they didn't watch his back when he's always watching theirs. The crowd begins to chant the Giant, hoping he would destroy the New World Order for real. Just doesn't happen. They tease it, but it doesn't happen. So that's how it goes off the air. I mean, the pay-per-view continues with the original New World Order celebrating the ring with the WCW belt without the Giant. Probably going to be getting that Giant feud we're all been clamoring for and putting him right in the wrong from the beginning. They should have never turned him heel. He should have been the main force against NWO. Yeah,
you dropped the ball, brother. That's all Hogan kept saying. You dropped the ball. We don't even play basketball. You dropping balls, brother.
So, I mean, to me, I thought it was a really solid effort on their end. It was a good way to end the pay-per-view cycle of 1996. I just wanted Piper to win the title here. I mean, I never heard Roddy Piper say anything about wanting to be a world champion. Maybe it was something specific about why he didn't want to be world champion. He did say specifically he wasn't fighting for WCW, but it wasn't made clear from the jump that he wasn't going to be going for the title. You're targeting the champion, but I don't know. I think it should have been a championship match because it was built up as such. So I feel like it should have been, I don't know, for the biggest prize in the game. What's the harm in putting the title on Piper just for a month or two and just going back to Hogan, you know?
Especially giving Piper that accolade that he's never received. I mean, how many championship belts has Piper had? You know, it's not like he was running the world championship anywhere. So I think giving it to him, giving him a pat on the back would have been fantastic. But I also see it from the other perspective is when Sting wins that belt next Starrcade, if there was internet at the time that was prevalent, it would have broke. You know, I think that it was such a big moment to finally get the belt off of Hogan and have Sting do it. I think the buildup was, you know, it was just people go back and they get shit all over 97 Starrcade, like the Sting and Hogan match, but I thought it was still to this day awesome. Like maybe the in-ring work wasn't great, but the story was there. It was rich and deep, especially how you're seeing it transform. I mean, we watched Surfer Sting turn into Crow Sting, and hopefully we'll go down that venture one day and just hit up on 97 WCW. But yeah, man, it's insane to just see how the story goes. And I totally get what you're saying. It would have been a more impactful moment, not just for Piper, but for like finally they beat the NWO. But I think it also would have took away from Sting winning a year later. It's good shit though.
I thought it was intentional on their end too. I don't think they mentioned it wasn't for the title because they wanted people to assume it was for the title. I think it was one of those things that whatever can get the more pay-per-view buys. And the fact that it wasn't for the title maybe would have drawn people away from not watching it. But, you know, the spectacle was the spectacle. And when you look at it, I kind of wish it was for the title, especially since Piper never was world champion. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you wanted it that way.
I would have loved to have Piper as champion for something. You know, give him the accolade. He deserved it. He was such a great talent. It's crazy that he didn't win a world champion.
Top 3 guys that didn't win the title, top of my head, Piper, Mr. Perfect, Owen Hart. Those are the 3 guys that come to my head. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of 3 more guys more deserving that should have been world champion. They just never won the world. They never won the big one. Piper should have. I mean, come on. He was at WrestleMania 1. I think Piper was around for so long.
Yeah, it's insane, man. Absolutely crazy.
With that being said, we're going to move to the final Nitro of 1996, December 30th, Knoxville, Tennessee, just down the road from where we were in Nashville, Civic Coliseum. Our champions are as followed. Everybody is the same, aside from our U.S. champion is now Eddie Guerrero, and now our Cruiserweight champion is Ultimo Dragon. We got a new line here, too. Our women's champion, Akira Okudo. It only lasts 6 months, so in 1997, we're going to see the disappearance of the women's championship. But for right now, she's our women's champion. We're going to recognize her as such.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just wild that they just scrap it so fast. It blows my mind.
It didn't really stand a chance when you're not going to put it on Nitro for the tournament. Like if you don't do that, like we don't stand a chance in making it have a respectable little tenure here in WCW.
Absolutely, man.
All right, so hour number 1 starts. Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko at the helm, giving us the play-by-play. Reports that I'm reading about this episode, it started 7 minutes early tonight. So instead of starting at 8 o'clock, started at 7:53. I'm good at math. So it kicks off with the New World Order getting out of a limo in the back. Hollywood Hogan is gloating, even though he just lost the Piper. They play up this all night that they're trying to rewrite history. This is like, I thought this was great because this is such a heel move. Since they left the pay-per-view last night looking like there was a lot of dissension within the ranks, now they're acting like nothing happened. And the Giant cuts to the charade while Hogan's talking about the New World Order World Title belt. Giant points out the belt still has a nameplate on it. The Giant's nameplate is still on the belt. Did you notice that?
I did. It's funny. It's one of those weird things. And yeah, I feel like every person that owns replica belts, if you have that NWO belt, you need the Giant's name on it. It shouldn't say Hulk Hogan on it.
Ever. I don't think, I mean, maybe down the line when he won it for a second time, but yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's funny, man. Like it's hilarious that they kind of, it's like an Easter egg, you know. And we've done before Easter eggs were a big deal. Is like, yeah, man, because he took it off the Giant. That's why his name's on the belt. And I thought it was cool little detail, man.
So they're making it clear that they're going to have this little Triple H Batista moment here with the World War III win for Giant. Hogan just assumes if a guy in the NWO wins the Battle Royal for the title shot, there's one less title defense for me. So there's this dissension. Giant seems really pissed off. Man, this confrontation, Ted DiBiase pushes away the cameraman. There's a lot of trouble in NWO, and this is the first time we're seeing any cracks in the foundation, and I thought it was cool.
Yeah, you dropped the ball, brother.
So we lead into our opening match of the night, and it's the Amazing French Canadians taking on Public Enemy, and this is a quick one, as we're used to on Nitro, 3 minutes and 29 seconds. The Amazing French Canadians get the win after the Quebecer crash on Rock or Rock. Public Enemy's on their way out here, as we talked about last week. This is one of their last appearances, and they go out on their backs like the old school mentality. The French Canadians get the win here. Tag division has a lot of depth teams. These are 2 of them.
Yeah, I thought this was a funny match. I love how they cut. I don't know if it was on WWE's end from editing, but you know the French Canadians are in there. They start singing "Oh Canada," and it just goes mute like 2 words into it, and you hear that really shitty version of Public Enemy's WWE music. I'm glad to see Public Enemy kind of riding off to the sunset here, but the way to open the show on a dud. you kind of take away from things. But this show felt like one of those shows where the attention was more on the NWO again, as opposed to what the actual show is going to be about. So totally understandable.
One of the jobs that ECW 1995 has to do for us is convince us the Public Enemy is this talented tag team that Paul Heyman presents them as in ECW. So I'm very curious if we have the ability to change our minds, and we'll be back here next week, and they're in the main event because they're taking on Tasmaniac and Sabu. So, and they're presented as a main attraction. They're on the goddamn poster. Public Enemy is real double tables named after Public Enemy. So there's a lot riding as far as ECW goes on them. And to the point where Paul Heyman makes them look like main eventers because everybody wants them too. We talked about in the newsletter. Everyone's like, who's going to sign Public Enemy? There's a bidding war over them. And you and I are like looking at each other. I don't understand why this is the case, but maybe we'll see it.
I hope we do. I hope we do.
Which leads us into the Cruiserweight Championship being defended. Ultimo Dragon versus Jushin Liger. Lead us down the path, man. This is a great match. First defense for.
Yeah, no, this was absolutely probably the best match of the night. We got a lot of good, solid action. Very cool to see Dragon and Liger going at each other so much. It's fun. It's refreshing. A lot of good moves. You got 2 tilt-a-whirl slams for God's sakes, and I mean, come on, you get the Brain Buster. This is just really good shit, man. This is if this was in Japan, this is one of those matches where the crowd would be like, because that's what they do in Japan. But it was awesome, man. Dragon hits the Tiger Suplex, gets the win. Short but sweet, 4 minutes 41 seconds. I really enjoyed it, man. Liger is a fucking top of his game. I think Ultimo Dragon's top of their game. Good pairing, man.
Were you surprised they took the title off Dean Malenko? Because when I saw that finish at Starrcade, I thought for sure Dean Malenko was retaining the title. But I guess since the J Crown Championship's on the line, you couldn't put all the titles on Malenko. They were stuck between a rock and a hard place with the booking.
Yeah, it was weird, very weird. But I mean, Malenko's done such a. The guy's been golden the whole year. It's hard to complain about something small, but it's just like it is what it is. I'm happy to see it move around people though, and this is a good title that you can have it move around on. This it's not the heavyweight championship. It's not the tag belts. It's just a lot of. We've seen a lot of throwing back and forth on the titles through this whole year, so it's good to. I mean, it's a little refreshing to get it off Malenko, even though I love Malenko with all my heart and soul.
There's something to be said about being able to switch the Cruiserweight Championship at any given moment. So I think it's good, like you said, because Dean Malenko's going to get it back. That's a given. And I think it's important for people to believe that the title can change hands because it's a workman's championship. The U.S. title is their mid-card title, but the Cruiserweight Championship truly functions like this title that at any moment someone else can beat them. And at any night, any of these Cruiserweights from Mexico, Japan, elsewhere, America, it doesn't matter. They will go over and potentially take the title. And everyone's on this playing ground. Ultimo Dragon's the same level as Dean Malenko. Rey Mysterio's in the same level as these guys as well. And Liger comes in too, and he's on their level, getting a title shot. The Cruiserweight Championship, the Cruiserweight division is built so perfectly, in my opinion, that someone needs to copy and paste this and do what they're doing elsewhere. I mean, you don't have to use the same guys, but like use the formula. You have guys all over the place that could be built in this Cruiserweight Championship division. I think about a guy like Commander that's in GCW PWG. Guy like Bandito, he's bigger than most cruiserweights, but you don't have to have all these stars. I mean, I think AEW could have a huge impact, not even just cruiserweight, but having like an international flair. Use the All-Atlantic Championship like that and have this just be an absolute bombshell work rate title. It hasn't been that yet.
No, not at all. And that's I was just going to say the same thing. He should take Tony Khan should take a note out of this and just kind of utilize the championship like that. I mean, why not? It's especially the Mid-Atlantic. It would give it so much more flavor and would make it more interesting. And who cares? I mean, if you're flooding the company with titles, make one prevalent and where we see it every week, every time. It's a shame that you don't. So I'm with you on that, man.
All right, so we have Mr. Wall Street taking on Conan with Jimmy Hart in a strap match. So this is supposed to be Big Bubba versus Conan. Bubba doesn't show up and Wall Street takes his place. Standard strap match. I don't think I've ever seen a strap match this quick. The last strap match we just saw was Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross, I think 2 months ago on pay-per-view or a premium live event, pal. So this is quick. 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Conan taps all the corners behind Wall Street, then gets punched in the fourth corner to give him a win. It's the second straight loss for the New World Order in 2 nights. dude, like a strap match randomly thrown together for a match that doesn't have a feud that, I mean, Bubba and Conan deserves it. They've been feuding for a while, I guess. But to
Yeah.
have a guy randomly come out, just cancel the goddamn match. Why are we doing a strap match that has no build to it?
No, absolutely. And what a weird fucking match. Just like it totally threw me off. First off, seeing IRS Man come out in NWO gear, I'm like, this is weird. Like it's uncomfortable. It's like when you get the stepdad, like he's trying to play catch with you or something, and you're like, like yeah, I'll like listen to my headphones and jamming out the Creed or whatever. But I mean, it was very out of place, very weird having Conan versus Mr. Wall Street. It was just awkward all the way around, you know. And it's just a strap match. It was fucking stupid.
So which leads us into the segment with Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff. They're acting like Hollywood Hogan defeated Piper last night, as if you didn't buy the pay-per-view and watch the show. But this is classic. I liked it. This gets ripped on a lot of reports. I do like I wish more heels use this. Like, you can't prove it. That the tape's wrong. Someone edited it.
Yeah,
I like
it. And it's cool that, like, you just brought up a really good point. There was no on demand. You couldn't rewatch the pay-per-view and right away. You had to wait. So it was like, yeah, man, like, whether it's in rotation or not, but Hogan's just like, yeah, brother, like, I won. It's all good. I still got the belt. Like, I'm good. But there's no honest way to disprove it until you watch the pay-per-view for yourself. It would be like, man, he's lying.
I just wish someone would use it more. I mean, doctoring footage is like kind of, I mean, it's all over the place as far as like how you could do it, especially now with editing. And I don't know. Yeah. I would love MJF to do something like this too.
Right? It's a deep fake. It's a deep fake. I didn't lose. It was the deep fake.
So we have our next match here. We have Sasaki coming over from New Japan taking on Hugh Morris. This ends in a DQ, so we'll take our first shot tonight with our mixed drink, because I mean, it's been a lot of matches, no DQs. It's kind of weird for 1996 to not have it.
Yeah.
This match was okay. 4 minutes and 40 seconds. New Japan guys, I mean, Sasaki's one of the better guys you can have on your roster. He's pretty popular with New Japan fans in the 90s. We were a year away from his breakout year as a single star, so he's still sort of an up-and-comer. Think Takeshita in AEW right now. Like, he's not quite the guy yet, but Sasaki was about to be the guy. Lots of clotheslines, but more New World Order storyline being told here. Eric Bischoff comes over, shows Tony and Larry. He's got the master tape of Starrcade. He says that, you know, Hogan didn't lose, and I am here to prove it. So we get a DQ finish because Sonny Ono breaks up the pin from the No Laughing Matter from Hugh Morris with the Japanese flagpole. So costing Hugh Morris is, however, not a laughing matter. So he gets beat up, chases Sonny Ono away, and he tears him out of his jacket. We got to take a shot. This match was short, but it was cool to see Sasaki here because I didn't expect him to see just this soon because, like I said, 97, he really breaks out in New Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was funny because Sonny Ono doesn't even make contact with Morris with the flag. He just like stands behind him. The ref's like, fuck that. Like, it's over. It's done. And then he's like, okay, yeah.
He just threw him over the top rope. That's what's been DQ in the last couple of weeks.
He could have. He should have. But yeah.
All right, I got my mixed drink here. This is one of our a beautiful mixed drink, little rum and Coke.
Hell yeah.
Ooh, I'm doing it classy. I took shots all year here. 30 episodes. I'm doing a mixed drink. I'm getting on your level.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think this is the only DQ for the night too, which is a little disheartening, right?
We'll finish the drinks at the end during
it's okay. We'll have a shot of nostalgia, 2 shot of nostalgia, right?
So we do get stills of Piper defeating Hogan from last night, so they want to make sure that they know. But I love the Eric Bischoff stuff, man. I love that he has this master tape that like people didn't see what we saw, and they didn't even have a false finish. There could have been one of those finishes like they had his shoulder down. None of that happened, and it
clean
makes it
win.
even better.
Yeah, it's just slime ball Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan stuff. And it was great, man. It was fun. I enjoy the heel work, man.
So for the final match of the first hour, we get the Faces of Fear fresh off their loss to the Outsiders taking on Harlem Heat. Quick match, but this is 2 of the best tag teams in WCW history. Take the lead here and lead us into Face of Fear's finale, 96.
Listen, there's not a better way to end the first hour of our very last Nitro we're covering here without just 2 of the best teams that we've seen in WCW history. I mean, we got Harlem Heat and Faces of Fear. It's not the best of the best, but it's so fun, man. Like, it's good to see. I I'm telling you, Faces of Fear are like just one of the best parts of this whole journey we've been on. Just watching them tear people apart, and I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, but they do not sneak past Harlem Heat in this one. Short match, like you said, 3 minutes, 34 seconds. Stevie Ray and got the pin on Ming. I mean, come on. Mind blown. Shocker. You would expect to highlight Booker T a little bit more. And Ming getting pinned by Stevie Ray, not happening in my booking. Okay. But it was good stuff, man.
Yeah, this was good, but there was a lot of the messy stuff in between. And what would be 1996 without Colonel Rob Parker and Sherry getting involved? So we got more of that bullshit.
Always.
Hopefully 1997 says goodbye to this stupid fucking storyline.
Right? No, they just blend in at this point. I was so heated about them, a couple months back, and now it's just like, of course, like, yeah, whatever. Go sit in your corner.
All right, you're here. All right, come on.
Yeah.
All right, so we get Mean Gene interviewing DDP. They talk about why did the New World Order try to help him in his U.S. Championship match, but they actually screwed him out of it, so there's confusion. Mean Gene says not to worry about it, so don't worry about it, DDP. So
don't worry about it.
Maybe we'll see a little bit more of New World Order wooing DDP to join, but this seems like the end of it. DDP is going to go on to do bigger and better things just a year from now. Starrcade 1997, off the top of your head, do you remember what he's doing? Is he quite in the world title picture yet?
No. Who's he fighting though? Is this his Macho Man match? No, not his Macho Man. It might be. Yeah, it's a huge deal. But whatever he's doing, he's fully gimmicked that by the time 97 hits Starrcade, and you are done with cigar carrying DDP. You got full blown. My ribs are taped. I'm broken up. Wearing the vest, bro. Bang! It's great. And the Diamond Cutter is somehow more over than it is in '96. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I can't imagine.
Great shit, man. I'm ready for the era of DDP to be bestowed upon us.
So hour number 2, Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, Mike Tenay are now taking the helm as far as announcing goes. And we get a flashback to earlier tonight when Hogan and the Giant got into an argument. Hogan and Eric Bischoff are lying about Roddy Piper, so they're doubling down on that as we lead into Disco Inferno taking on Glacier. Not much to talk about this match. You'd expect Glacier to go over, and he does. Disco tries to get cheap heat on the mic by making volunteers insults because they're in Tennessee. Tennessee, as you guys know, that is volunteer country as far as college sports go. Yeah, I mean, the Cryonic Kick ends it. Good night to Disco Inferno and say goodbye. And it just really goes to show you, I mean, right now, they don't know what they have in Disco Inferno. I'm not a huge Disco Inferno fan. I'm not, be honest with you. But they do find a little rhythm with Disco Inferno in the later years where it wouldn't be discovered until when he went back and forth with the TV title with Perry Saturn and all that stuff. That was like the more memorable stuff he was doing. And again, it doesn't age as well, but I think they found like a little niche for him as far as in the mid card or lower mid card that they didn't know here. He was just a jobber.
Yeah. No, he is the R-Truth of WCW. Like, but not in, like, R-Truth is witty and, he rubs off on you easily. Disco Inferno's the complete opposite. He's douchey. He rubs you the wrong way every time you see him. I mean, I couldn't have been happier to this being our last Nitro we're covering for the time being, that Glacier just chronic kicks him like the pieces. He exploded like the snap. Like, it was beautiful. Yeah. And fuck Disco Inferno.
He has a podcast with Conan now, or is that's who the two of them on a podcast together?
I can't tell if it's a rib. I think that they talk shit about him still. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Yeah, but I think Conan is kind of friendly with Glenn. I don't know. Weird. Absolutely weird.
I know that Hangman Page, the Bucks, Omega, they all got heat with Disco big time on social media.
A lot of people do. It doesn't end there.
All right, so enough about Disco Inferno. Let's get into the next match here. Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit with woman at his side. The history between these two men, the later matches you would see, had me going back in my brain. I think back to the latter match they had for the IC title. I forget what pay-per-view was at in WWF, but these guys have such a chemistry. We talk about Eddie Guerrero having a great dance partner with Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho, the interchangeable nature of even Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle. When you get all these guys in the ring together, they're just magic. And this is no different. Short match, 4 minutes, but they make the most of it. We get all the classics. Jericho dropkicking Benoit. We get a missile dropkick from Jericho as well. He's moving around really well. He's really coming into his own. We're seeing more of the it's interesting because Jericho doesn't quite have a gimmick yet. He's just that kind of go hard young rookie kid.
Long blonde hair, doing his thing.
That could be later in life. The Ayatollah Rock and Rolla, Y2J, all that. So Lion Salt misses, flying body from the is a corner chart. So Benoit brings him down with a back superplex for the 3. Interesting that it ended the match, back superplex.
Yeah. No, you know my opinion on those abrupt finishes. Those are some of my favorite things to see. It was a great match, though.
Okay. 6.
Yeah, no, we're good.
All right, so everybody from the Four Horsemen, excluding Arn Anderson, shows up with Mean Gene for an interview. Woman and Deborah get into an argument, which causes Benoit and Mongo to start arguing. There's some dissension in the Four Horsemen. Thoughts on this segment, Mike Belcaster?
I enjoyed it, man. I thought it was interesting. I mean, Ric Flair is doing his Ric Flair whole gimmick. He's rocking the long sleeve shirt here. It's fun. He's just, come on, man. Woo! But I mean, interesting, very interesting. It felt like it was a celebration of having Jeff Jarrett around, and Flair got somebody to be there while he's recovering his arm. That's about all it seems to be. But it was good. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's keeping them on television. It's keeping them relevant. I think that's the best they can do, but they simply are overshadowed by New World Order. That's what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
We lead into a tag team little person match here. Octagon Cito and Mascarita Sangrata defeating Jarito Estrada and Purita Morgan. So as we talked about, the WWF is going to be doing this at the Rumble. WCW said, let's try our hand here. 2 minutes and 21 seconds. You don't really need to know. This doesn't become a thing, doesn't become a division, but they sprinkle it in here. They're trying it out. Not the best.
Yeah, very weird. And we've talked about it earlier. We're talking about it now. It's a weird concept, especially after you have such good matches going, and you just throw the little guys out there, see what they're gonna do. Give them 10 minutes on TV.
Yeah, I mean, 2 minutes could have been used much better than this. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I would have rather watched a on the road segment or anything else.
All right, so we get Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio. This match does go to a draw. So lead us through this, Mike Belcaster. We will be taking a shot of nostalgia. Don't fret, guys.
Yeah, my goodness, this is possibly, this is the best way to end our fantastic nitroing here. These two literally back and forth, beat the piss out of each other. It was really good. It was fun. Just unbelievable counters, unbelievable action. Like, this is a must-watch match out of this, out of most of the nitros we covered. This is great shit right here. They give them time. They leave you wanting more. They do the time limit draw piece. Unbelievable. This was building up the story of what's it going to take for these two to beat each other. Like, how much can these guys go through in one match for them to not to be a time limit draw? It was beautifully well done, and I could watch Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio tie each other's shoes for 10 minutes, and I'd be fucking excited. These guys tore the house down.
I mean, great match. There's no way around it. This match was excellent, and I could watch these guys do anything in the ring together, and they are just made to wrestle each other, and I would love to see it over and over again, and I can't wait to see more of it. So,
yeah.
Which leads us into our next match. Lex Luger taking on Greg Valentine. It's the usual Luger match. He absorbs all the punishment, gets him up in the torture rack, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Thanks for coming, Greg Valentine. See you later. Lex Luger continues his mega push towards the main event, and we move on from there.
Go Pats. Go fucking Pats.
That leads us into our main event here. I want you to lead the way here. Set the tone for us with this Roddy Piper promo. Getting all the love from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, no, this was awesome. Piper comes out, just talking his shit like, we did it. I'm Roddy Piper. Screw the NWO. Hogan's prick. Blah blah blah. It's so good. I mean, he gets such a big pop when the music hits, and like that crowd bought the pay-per-view Just like, it wasn't just like, oh, Piper's here. It was, man, he beat Hogan. It was great. Because, I mean, the crowd's missing all this awesome shit with Benoit, or with Bischoff. You know, I got the real tape. Like, you're not seeing all that when you're there. So this crowd's just blindly thrown. It's good, man. But Hogan's there. They get really at each other. The Giant comes down. You could see the standoffishness. The NWO starts kicking the shit out of Piper. Giant's the last one from the NWO in the ring. You know, Hogan's slapping him around. Come on, get him, and everybody's jumping on him. It looked great, but then Hogan's like, come on, you know, he's trying to signal to the Giant to come over there, and Giant's just like, what, man, you know, doing his thing. And I love you dropped the ball, brother. It comes up again. He's still going at it. You dropped the ball, brother. And then he says, you dropped the ball last night. You dropped the ball right here. That's 2 strikes. Slaps the big man across the face. 3 strikes, you're out. And I couldn't help, because as great as this was, the Giant's wearing a knockoff, like, Earl Hebner selling them in the parking lot NWO shirt. It's got none of the lettering on it. It's just like some weird color off. Like, it's just completely fucked. So the NWO starts beating up the Giant, man, like hardcore. And I was expecting at one point one of the corner big man, you know, throw everybody off. I'm coming after you, Hogan. But, you know, Hogan, he finally gets his hands on Hogan. Hogan's just not having it, man. It was crazy. It was just the biggest clusterfuck of how we love the end of Nitro, man. You know, Piper's got fucking wheeling off. There's an ambulance there. It's just, boom, it's insane.
Yeah, they rip the New World Order shirt off of him. They bash him in the head with the belt until he's unconscious, and they go out. I was waiting for the Giants' comeback. It never happens. It's just the NWO go out on top, and it's crazy.
The way Hogan takes him out with the belt is just hilarious. Like, you see Hogan protecting him, obviously. He's not hitting him so hard, but like that last time he hits him, he like jumps up a little bit, comes down on him. It was just goofy looking, but it was funny as shit. I really enjoyed the hell out of the segment. It was crazy to see the Giant getting taken down, and it was insane. And just after all the shit they built him up with throughout this year, to end it with such a cliffhanger like this, I was like, oh my goodness, man. It was great.
And not to mention, too, Piper's ambulance driving away, and then like he's involved in this. It seems like they're tying a whole bunch of different storylines together when it's at its best. It's just chaotic. And man, this is one of the more chaotic endings, and it's, I guess, appropriate that we're ending 1996 on it. It makes me want to watch 97, but now we're moving somewhere else. But this was, dude, what a way to go out.
Yeah, 100%, man. If any episode of Breaking Bad would have ended like this shit would have been off the charts. Like, like it really was. This was must-see fucking television, and you felt it. Like, you gotta take the mindset of, we don't have on demand. We can't watch this right after we've seen it again and analyze every itty fucking bit of it. This is happening. You have to wait a whole week to find out what the hell happened. And my God, what a good cliffhanger. So fresh.
So good. And we're going to talk about our favorite parts of the 2 nights of wrestling with the Chaser, our last one in 1996, picking our favorite part of those 2 nights of wrestling. All right, so every week we'll pick our favorite part of the 2 nights of wrestling. Mike Belcaster, lead the way. What's your favorite part of Starrcade and Nitro?
Oh my goodness, there's so much to choose from, but I will say the wee little men. No, my favorite part of it, and I'm giving it to Ultimo Dragon, Liger, and I'm also giving it to Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio from Nitro. How can you not enjoy that time limit draw? I think that was probably one of the best things we've seen the whole year. Again, Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio, just BFFs inside and outside of that ring. It was such a pleasure to watch them tear some shit up. Had a blast, man.
Completely agree with you. Those are the 2 I picked, but I'm also going to pick the ending of this Nitro because I thought it represented what 1996 of Monday Nitro what it was, as far as why people wax poetic about and want to watch things like this, because it leaves you on the edge of your seat. You want to tune in next week. You want to see what's going to happen, and they're building stories for the future. They're setting the tone for what's going to happen. And NWO is sold out. They're planting seeds all over the place. We got mid-card titles meaning something. We got everything but the women's title meaning something. The tag titles have contenders at them. We got the U.S. title back in contention. WCW's in a really good place, and they're only going upwards from here. So, I mean, just that ending really exemplified what I loved about doing this year with you, man.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. It was as bittersweet as it is. I'm looking forward to the future of what we got going on here because, I mean, ECW is just dipping our toes in. We got so much stuff we could deep dive into here on Shadow Nostalgia, and you never know what's going to come next, but I'm super excited for it, just as I'm super excited to see where January picks up in 1997 on the WCW, and how awesome it's going to be going back to 95. At the same time, we're crazy men here, but man, I cannot wait to jump into that ECW 95 lifestyle, man.
I'm super pumped, and with that being said, the lights are coming on the bar. We have to turn them on. We have to get ready for the weekend that is and start our Friday night following this. Let's close the tab. Let's hype everything on the tavern. Of course, let's talk about the start of season 2 of Shot Nostalgia. Mike Belcaster, you have the lights coming on. Tell me what's going on in your world before we hype up season 2 of Shot Nostalgia.
Oh my goodness, man. We had a hell of a week here at the Turnbuckle Tavern. As always, you guys go check out some of the stuff. We had a fun episode of Fig Night. We went over the Thanksgiving sale at Ringside, kind of picked out some of our favorites, some of the things that you could save money on while the holiday season's the best if you're a figure collector, because all the good shit that you've seen that you're like, I couldn't afford that throughout the year, this is when sale time happens. And then you could, like, they have elites for $13. You could start picking up your AEW collection, all your good stuff. Go check it out. It was a really fun episode. Obviously the wrap up was fantastic this week as always. It's so much going on down at the tavern, man. You guys could just go to theturnbuckletavern.com. Follow along with everything we do. We're having a good time here. We're enjoying it. We are on every freaking platform that you could possibly, besides Metaverse. I think it's the only thing we're missing. And I would love to see a virtual Sneed and the One Bad Chad hanging out, doing their own thing on the Metaverse. So maybe one day that'll be in the future. But right now, this is everything we got going down here at the tavern. So make sure you guys come join us, subscribe, share the love. Come join us for season 2 of Shot of Nostalgia, man. I'm super excited for it. ECW 1995. Getting wild. We are starting with double tables from February 4th, 95. It's going to be a great time. And as you said, this is going to be hopefully Paul Heyman's time to prove to us that Public Enemy was not just two sleaze bags from the East Coast and they were able to do something in the ring. I'm looking super forward to it, man.
So the first thing I want to hype, of course, is ECW Double Tables, Shot of Nostalgia, ECW 1995, Season 2, Episode 1. Make sure you guys join us next week. Same time, same place, Turnbuckle Tavern. Make sure you guys are same format, really. I mean, we're going to have a different overlay, different aesthetic. It's going to be a little more hardcore, different intro version, all that stuff. Still same guys. Maybe wearing blazers, maybe not. Maybe Mike Belcaster's transitioning into being a little bit more of the edginess, like Eric Bischoff with that leather jacket. But of course, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely going to be a lot of fun going through the newsletter and seeing what Meltzer has to say about 95. But also, too, that same night, following that, interviewing Joey Conway, November 18th, 2022, will be airing directly following ECW Double Table. So stay tuned. Double dose of the ace here. The cause of it all, Joey Conway, the reigning NYWC Fusion champion. He is an absolute amazing future star. I mean, the stuff he's doing in the ring, heel work. It's going to be a great conversation. I'm thankful he's coming on and chatting with me on the tavern. So I'm really excited for that. Other thing I want to hype up, and this is just like, dude, again, the worlds are colliding here. We're going to be having Juventud Guerrera at Remarkable Wrestling. And if you guys remember, Remarkable Wrestling was where I made my ring announcing debut. So Friday, December 16th, 2022. This will be in College Point, New York, which is near Queens. So this is not in the same Deer Park area, but make sure you guys get your tickets. They're going to be selling out quick. The event is called How Soon Is Now. We don't know the match lineup yet, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Juventud Guerrera is going to be there wrestling somebody. We're not sure who quite yet. Maybe I know, maybe I don't, but I'm not telling you quite yet. Buy a ticket. I'm telling you guys, check it out. This is going to be a great night of wrestling right around Christmas time. Good way to start your Christmas season, or like, I guess we're right in the mix of it. December 16th is going to be a great freaking time of wrestling. And who knows, man, I'm wearing my ring announcing jacket tonight. It's a special occasion. A lot of good things going on in Tavern, a lot of good things going on in the wrestling community. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. I'm so thankful we're moving on to ECW 1995. This is a nice little team. And the third year.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. And I'm just about as excited as the little kids when they seen Santa Claus dropping off Juventud Guerrera in that poster. Did you see that look? He was like, "See you later, Hoovy." Hoovie's like, "Yes, he's ready. He's ready to roll. He's down. You're gonna be hanging out with the man. It's gonna be a fun time. I can't wait. I'm gonna check that out on IWTV, where all the good stuff happens."
Man, I appreciate the support. And again, I appreciate everybody watching this journey with us. This was an experimental thing that we did here, and it definitely panned out. Both of us didn't know what we were getting into, the amount of contact we had to wade through, but this was a great time. Learn something along the way, which is the best part about doing these shows. We learn something, talk about the newsletter, talk about the matches, and really become a better wrestling fan to understand the scope of what we're seeing as fans now, because you just become a more educated person by doing things like this. And I'm hoping we did a little bit for that for the audience that watches. We appreciate all you guys.
Absolutely.
So any parting words about Mike Belcaster? Like, you got Eric Bischoff in my ear, but he's being kind of nice because it's the last time we're doing this. Any final words you want to say towards the Shot Nostalgia Season 1 audience to bid them adieu and get them ready for ECW?
It's been great, but we are stepping into the dance. And next week, Shot of Nostalgia gets extreme. We'll see you guys then.
I got Eric Bischoff in my ear, and now Paul Heyman's in the other goddamn ear. They're both yelling at me, "We gotta go, we're out of time!"